right, welcome back. So today, after running the TLR Typhon roller that we set up with Spectrum Electronics, we're going to finally check the differentials. The RC was kind of noisy today, putting 2 packs through it, and in Arrma fashion, I have a feeling it is the differentials. So we're going to pull off the wheels just to make it more convenient to work on. I already cracked all the wheels loose, so they held up pretty good on 4S. The glue is not coming off anywhere, so that's a good sign. But I noticed it was diffing out really bad today in running it. The mesh is perfect. I'm gonna pop out the center diff. See how I can unplug that, get the wires out of my way. But this retains in the RC so I don't lose the jumper. So the first thing we're going to do is lift this out, see if we can get the center diff out real easy. Would be the first thing that I want to check. Center diff is really soft, so it tends to diff out, and the reason you do this is to keep the RC planted, so that you're putting more drive to the front wheels than you are the rear wheels. But when you're accelerating, it's trying to lift the front, so it tends to diff out and slow the RC down. It's just a way to control it when you have differentials all the way around. It's just an easy way of controlling the RC. So you can see the plastic is on those threads. That means somebody's over tightened it. And that's probably, I'd imagine, when TLR took this roller and set up their differentials, I'm assuming. And they probably did it with a gun, because all of them have threads on them, pulled plastic. And that's why I'm not using a gun right now. See, and that went into plastic in the front. These go into metal, so the back ones can't strip out. So we're going to pop apart all 3 diffs. We are going to see if we need to shim them, because the RC was kind of noisy. Hopefully it wasn't stripping any of the RC stuff. Tired of doing this by hand. Oh, that's grease. Okay. But you can see how small that is, or how soft that is. So we're going to check fluid in this, and there is a little bit of oil there, which is nice to see. And it has sealed bearings, rubber sealed bearings in it, which is good to see. So that's the center diff. All right, I'm going to pop off the wing, because we are going to make an adjustment to the wing. Arrma diffs are usually pretty easy to get to service. Be careful when doing that, when tightening these down, because if you over tighten them, you will snap them off. And then now that it's disconnected, we can pop the cover off with the sway bar on it. And look how thick that sway bar is. It's a pretty hefty sway bar right there. And you can see it's very limited on grease. You just loosen the bolt and pull the pin. So loosen both sides. Don't take the screw out. Then we can grab the pin and slide the pins out. And then that'll allow us to get the shocks out of the way. And then I just take a rubber band and tie them up in the middle so they don't fall down while I'm doing this. And then remember that the gear is to our left, and that feels very crunchy on the inside. Not stripped, but it's got really thin fluid in it as well. So I think we're going to up the fluid a little bit. By upping the fluid, when it gets on two wheels on the side, it's going to continue to drive instead of set back down. So on high bite surfaces, like the grass that we were on today, with the tires we were on, that was a high bite traction surface. And that'll help us not roll over. So we can move these upper control arms up, and that'll stop our rollover point. I think the higher we go, the harder it is on a high traction surface to actually flip over, I believe. But I'll look into it. But I believe moving them up is going to basically give a higher pinpoint when this is putting pressure, instead of bringing it down low. And I get up on two wheels, it can flip over easy. So by moving this up, it's going to give it a wider stance over here, which should move up our rollover position. That's what I believe. Now, I could be off because, like I said, I don't track race, but it's just common sense. If you take this surface area and you move it up and you give a bigger V, that's going to keep the top part of this, when the wheel's pushing against it, it's going to hold the top part of the body on the ground. So I might just leave the fluid the way it is if they are topped off. If they're low on fluid, then I'll end up changing the fluid. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get these the center diff and the rear opened up. Since I don't want to open up the front right now, I'm just going to get some paper towels, get everything cleaned up here, and then we're going to pop this thing open and see how much fluid is in it. What fluid? I believe it's going to be like a 10K, maybe even a 5K that they have in here. If it is that thin, then I'm going to up the fluid a little bit to give me more drive, because as you could hear the whole time, all you heard was gear noise, and that's because you were hearing all the differentials spinning, these little gears spinning on the inside, plus the differential gears that have pretty thin, as you see, there's not much fluid there. There is fluid, but it's some very thin fluid aligning these gears, which will lower your rolling rotation resistance, but this 2050 kV is not feeling that. So for top speed, this might be the way to go, but we're going to add some grease because I don't want to strip these things out. There is no shims I don't see any shims on this at all, but it felt like they were tight. So I don't think we have to add any shims. But we'll look at that after I open it up, because when I close it back up, I could tighten it a little bit more and we might get some slop in it. So if I have to shim it once I open it, then I'll do that. But we're going to pause the video here, and I'm going to get some paper towels, clean this up a little bit, keep the axles and everything separated. And we're going to get both center diff and rear differential opened up to see if see what kind of adjustments we can make. All right, so we got the rear diff and the center diff. We're going to go ahead and open these things up. I got my diff fluids out right here. We're going to see what's in here, and we're going to thicken up the center, and I might leave these thin if they're full. So we're going to go ahead and check that right now, and then we're going to add some grease to the gears and hopefully get this thing to quiet up a little bit. I noticed that these things are pretty noisy, but as well as this thing is tuned, I feel that these diffs will probably be full. At least I'm assuming. So, like I thought, it's just pretty much grease in here. It could be fluid, but it's super low, and that's why it was doing what it was doing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a container. We're going to get these things cleaned out, and we'll be right back. And they're not full either. So let me grab some stuff to get these things cleaned up. All right, so got some paper towels, got some brake clean, got my Arrma diff junk collection from the EXB Creighton. As you see, that's what it takes to make an EXB Creighton diff work, is you got to do this. But I use these little cans. We're going to pull this thing apart. Where is my needle nose? Here they are. So I try to grab the bottom one, not the top one, so I can pull it out as an assembly. Gasket stayed intact. Gonna get the gear out of here. And as you see, that's all the fluids in there. There's basically no fluid in it at all. That's it. It's empty. It's dry. That's why it was losing so much power, because I think, like I said, 4S is damn near perfect. But you could hear it, and I could feel it in the trigger that it was pretty much. Let me get this pin and stuff out of here so I can get this thing a little bit cleaner. Bearing off. Need the seal out of there. And I think that's it. That's why these differentials are so noisy, is there's really no fluid in these. I really thought that being tuned by Losi that there would be more than what's in here. As far as diff fluid anyway. So we're going to make sure our bearing is in here. There is a shim right here, so make sure that is in there as well. Then there's a seal and a shim. And then we have a pin. And we have a gear. Then at this point we're going to add some fluid. Now I don't want this thing locked up because that's going to make it not diff out when I'm going up on two wheels. I want it to plant itself and come back down, but I still want it to drive. What it was doing before is it would start to get up on two wheels, start to drive, and then slam down. Or I would go into the turn too hard and it would just catch on the grass and then roll over. So what I'm going to try to do is be able to power around, and if I get up on two wheels, as long as it's not at the tipping point, which we're going to make an adjustment here to get our roll, center of roll, get it planted more. If we raise this up like I was talking about, that should give us more bite and try to keep the upper part of the RC down. At least I'm hoping, but we're going to find out. And that's what's great about tuning this thing, is that we can play with this stuff. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do 3K in the rear, and I'm going to do 10 up front, because I am going to lock, or not lock, I'm going to tighten up this center diff a lot. This thing is just, it's like nothing's in it. So we're going to do our Racer's Edge 3K. Add a little more fluid. There we go. That's pretty good right there on fluid. We're going to throw our gasket on here. And get this bottom set down. Right, once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and check it by hand. I think that feels pretty good. Now I'm going to set it in here without putting the axles in so I can check shimming. Right, I got the sway bar mounted back up, and got the diff cover back on. So now we're going to put our shocks back in. Hopefully. There we go. You don't need to crank these bolts down. They just slip into those pins and stop the pins from sliding back. So you don't really need to crank these things down too hard. Just when they bottom out, make sure they're snug, and that's it. There we go. Now we're going to work on the center diff. I'm assuming the fluid looks the same. You can see all the material from the bolts being over tightened. And yep, just a little bit of grease in there. Pretty empty. That's why it's diffing out as bad as it was diffing out. Especially the center. You kind of want your front to drive. $100K in the center. All right, I'm going to let that settle a little bit. Probably add some more. We're going to give that some time to settle down, and then we're going to make sure that this gear pops on without. I don't want to overpack these diffs, because like I said, I really want the diffs to work, not like on my bashers where I pretty much add earplugs and all that stuff to them to really stiffen them up. This one I really don't want to do that, because I don't want it flipping over in turns, because I'm setting it up for more of handling than bashing. So I might have too much fluid in there, but we're going to let it settle down and see where it's at. So we'll be right back. All right, so just a little recap. Went ahead and finished up the back. I lowered down the wing, got the center diff in. It definitely is much better. And I have the front diff apart. Now the front diff, we're going to go ahead and stick in 10K fluid. So I'm going to do that, finish this up, and then the next video we're going to get it out and rip it. Video's getting kind of long, so we're going to end it here. But there we go. That's the changes I'm going to make, and then we're going to go out and rip it again. So like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you guys on my next video. Thanks for watching. Hopefully these changes, if you guys got the TLR Typhon, definitely check the diffs. I do know that the front diff had a lot of slop left to right, so we are going to shim it. I'm going to add one shim on the left side, and there we go. We'll catch you guys on my next video. Thanks for watching.